Most men over 50 quietly worry about size, yet almost no one talks about what actually matters to women. You've probably heard myths, locker room numbers, or online ideals that leave you anxious, comparing, and doubting yourself. Here's the truth. Most people get wrong. It's not about extremes, and it's not about inches alone. The real issue is how the body, brain, and confidence work together. And science has clear answers. In this video, I'll break down what women actually report wanting, what the research really shows, and why many men are stressing over the wrong thing. I'm Dr. Selena Clark, a urologist with 43 years of experience. Tell me where you're watching from and gently tap like and subscribe. For decades, I've watched men over 50 carry a quiet belief that size is the defining factor of sexual satisfaction. That myth didn't come from medicine. It came from locker room talk, exaggerated media, and unrealistic online images that slowly rewired expectations. Biologically, this belief triggers stress. Stress raises cortisol, and cortisol directly interferes with testosterone, blood flow, and arousal. So the very fear of not being enough often creates the performance issues men are trying to avoid. I hear this concern in my office all the time, usually whispered, usually with embarrassment. Men tell me they feel anxious before intimacy, distracted during it, and disappointed afterward, even when their partner is satisfied. That anxiety pulls attention away from connection and into self-monitoring, which activates the sympathetic nervous system. The exact opposite of what erections need. An erection depends on relaxation, healthy circulation, and nerve signaling, not comparison or measurement. What most men misunderstand is that women don't experience intimacy as a ruler-based event. The vagina is adaptable, richly supplied with nerve endings near the entrance, not deep inside, and arousal is far more influenced by emotional safety, pacing, and responsiveness. When a man is tense, rushed, or self-critical, his body reflects that tension, confidence, presence, and comfort create better physiological responses on both sides. Here's something practical you can start doing immediately before intimacy. Slow your breathing for 2 minutes deep into the belly. This lowers cortisol and improves blood flow. Remind yourself that connection matters more than performance. When your mind relaxes, your body follows. Men over 50 often regain better function simply by removing pressure, not adding techniques. Once you understand where this myth came from and how it affects your hormones and nervous system, the conversation changes completely. And next, I want to show you what science actually measures, because the real numbers surprise almost everyone. When we talk about size in medicine, we don't guess and we don't rely on opinion. We measure and what science actually measures. Often shocks men over 50 who've spent years comparing themselves to myths. In large clinical studies across multiple countries, average erect length consistently falls within a narrow range. Not extremes, not the numbers shouted online, just normal human variation. Most men already fall well within what research defines as typical, functional, and satisfying. Here's where perception gets distorted. The brain is highly visual and repeated. Exposure to exaggerated images resets expectations, much like junk food resets taste buds over time. Men begin to believe average means inadequate biologically. That belief activates anxiety, pathways anxiety, tightens blood vessels, disrupts nitric oxide release, and interferes with erection quality. So the fear created by false comparisons becomes more damaging than any physical trait. From a medical standpoint, studies also show something important. Women consistently report difficulty accurately estimating size during intimacy. Why? Because arousal changes, perception, lubrication, muscle relaxation, emotional connection, and rhythm all influence experience far more than measurements. The nervous system processes sensation, not inches. When the brain feels safe and engaged, pleasure increases regardless of size. I often tell my patients this medicine doesn't reward extremes. It rewards function. Healthy blood flow, good nerve signaling, balanced testosterone, and emotional presence matter far more for satisfaction. This is especially true for men over 50 when circulation, sleep, and stress management play bigger roles than anatomy ever did. A simple, practical step is to stop consuming content that fuels comparison, replace it with habits that support vascular health, like daily walking, hydration, and quality sleep. These directly improve erectile strength and confidence. When men focus on health instead of numbers, performance often improves naturally. And once you understand what science actually measures, the next question becomes even more revealing, because what women report wanting doesn't match male assumptions at all. When researchers stop asking men what they think women want and start asking women directly, the picture changes dramatically across surveys, relationship studies, and long-term partner data. Women consistently report that size ranks far lower than most men expect. What matters more is how present you are, how responsive you are, and how safe and desired you make your partner feel. For men over 50, this can be a huge relief because it shifts the focus away from anatomy and back to connection. Biologically, this makes sense. Female arousal is strongly influenced by the brain. Emotional comfort, trust, and pacing activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which heightens sensitivity and pleasure. When a man is attentive and confident, the brain amplifies physical sensation. When he's distracted or insecure, that amplification fades. Women often describe satisfaction as feeling seen and in sync, not impressed by size. I've had many couples tell me intimacy improved with age, not declined. Why? Because experience replaces performance pressure. Men who listen, slow down, and respond to feedback create better experiences than those trying to meet imaginary standards. From a medical perspective, this aligns perfectly with what we know about nerve response and arousal patterns. Pleasure is cumulative, not mechanical. Here's something practical you can do. Shift your goal from performance to responsiveness. Pay attention to breathing, movement, and timing. Ask simple questions, adjust based on reaction. This immediately reduces pressure on your body and improves confidence, testosterone balance, and erection quality when you focus outward instead of inward. Anxiety fades. Emotionally, this is where many men reclaim intimacy. They stop competing with myths and start participating fully. And once you understand what women actually value, the next step becomes obvious because confidence and blood flow, not inches, are what truly change the experience. This is where biology finally clears the confusion. From a medical standpoint, confidence and blood flow are inseparable. An erection is not a mechanical event, it's a vascular and neurological one. When you feel calm, confident, and present, your brain releases nitric oxide, which relaxes blood vessels and allows blood to fill the erectile tissue fully. When anxiety creeps in, those vessels tighten. Even a healthy body can underperform under stress. Especially in men over 50 emotionally, I see this pattern constantly. Men tell me, I'm thinking the whole time, worrying about firmness, size, or lasting long enough. That mental noise pulls you out of the moment. The body senses threat, even if it's just self-judgment, and shifts into protection mode. Testosterone drops slightly, adrenaline rises, and blood is redirected away from the penis. This has nothing to do with masculinity or desire. It's pure physiology. What women respond to again and again is presence, eye contact, relaxed movement, steady breathing. These signals communicate. Confidence changes perception when blood flow is strong and rhythm is natural. Satisfaction increases on both sides. Size doesn't change in that moment, but experience does. Here's a practical medical tip I give my patients. Before intimacy, warm your body, a warm shower, light stretching, or even a short walk. Improve circulation during intimacy, slow your pace by about 20% slower. Movement enhances nerve signaling and helps maintain firmness. These are simple actions, but they directly support vascular health and performance. For men over 50, focusing on circulation is far more effective than chasing comparisons. Hydration, sleep, and managing stress do more for erections than obsessing over anatomy ever will. When you support blood flow, confidence naturally follows, and when confidence rises, performance stabilizes. Once men understand this connection, something powerful happens. They stop fighting their bodies and start working with them, and that opens the door to the next issue. Most men overlook entirely how hormones, stress, and aging quietly reshape desire and satisfaction. As men move through their 50s and 60s, hormones quietly change the rules of intimacy. Often without warning, testosterone doesn't suddenly disappear. It does decline gradually, and more importantly, it becomes more sensitive to lifestyle and stress. Chronic tension, poor sleep, and constant self-criticism signal the brain that the environment isn't safe biologically, that lowers testosterone output and disrupts libido, energy, and erection quality. This is why many men feel desire in their mind, but notice their body responding more slowly emotionally. This shift can feel confusing or even discouraging. Men tell me, I still want my partner, but my body doesn't always cooperate. That gap creates frustration, and frustration feeds stress. Creating a loop that's hard to break. The truth is aging doesn't remove desire, it just makes the system more sensitive. Same behaviors that barely mattered at 35 now have a much bigger impact. Sleep plays a critical role here. Testosterone is produced primarily during deep sleep. Men over 50 who sleep poorly often wake up with lower hormone levels, less morning firmness, and reduced energy. Add daily stress, financial worries, or health anxiety, and cortisol rises. Cortisol directly suppresses testosterone and narrows blood vessels, making erections less reliable. Here's a practical reset I recommend. Protect your sleep like medication. Aim for a consistent bedtime. Reduce late night screens and avoid heavy meals or alcohol close to sleep. Even improving sleep by 1 hour can measurably improve testosterone and erectile function. Pair this with light resistance exercise 2 to 3 times a week, which naturally boosts hormone signaling and confidence. This isn't about fighting age, it's about adapting intelligently. When men support their hormones instead of blaming themselves, intimacy becomes calmer and more enjoyable, and once hormones and stress are addressed, the focus naturally shifts to what actually improves satisfaction at any age, which is where real change begins when it comes to improving satisfaction. The secret isn't a pill or a gimmick, it's consistent practical action. Biologically, pleasure and erection quality rely on three pillars: healthy circulation, nerve signaling, and hormonal balance. Men over 50 often overlook simple steps that support all three at once. Small daily habits can create a cascade of benefits, from firmer erections to more energy and even improved confidence in intimacy emotionally. This is liberating. Instead of obsessing over size or performance, you start focusing on what truly matters: connection, responsiveness, and presence. When you feel capable in your body, anxiety fades. You notice subtle cues from your partner, respond in real time, and experience intimacy more fully. That emotional feedback loop strengthens desire for both partners, making sex more satisfying without any extreme measures. Here's what you can do: immediately engage in moderate cardiovascular exercise like brisk walking or cycling at least 3 times a week to boost blood flow. Add pelvic floor exercises to strengthen the muscles that control erections. Prioritize quality, sleep, and manage stress through deep breathing or meditation. Small adjustments to diet, hydration, and routine can also stabilize testosterone naturally over time. These actions reinforce confidence, erectile strength, and overall sexual satisfaction. I also recommend reframing your mindset. Treat intimacy as a shared experience, not a performance test. Slow down, communicate openly, and celebrate small improvements. These shifts reinforce positive neural pathways for pleasure, making each encounter more enjoyable and less stressful. Once these habits are in place, something remarkable happens. Men stop worrying about what's enough and start noticing real improvement. That naturally leads to the final step: reframing anxiety into lasting sexual confidence and reclaiming intimacy at any age. Reframing anxiety into confidence is the turning point for men over 50 biologically. The nervous system responds to mindset as much as physical stimulus. When you approach intimacy with self-judgment or fear, stress, hormones rise, blood flow decreases, and erections become less reliable. Flip the script. When you focus on presence, connection, and responsiveness, your body mirrors that mindset. Confidence isn't arrogance, it's a physiological state that enhances arousal, stamina, and pleasure for both partners emotionally. This shift is profound. Men tell me they feel lighter, more engaged, and even playful once they stop obsessing over size. Relationships deepen because intimacy becomes about mutual enjoyment, not measurement. You notice more subtle cues, respond more attentively and naturally, create an environment where both partners feel safe and satisfied. That presence alone often outweighs years of myth-based anxiety. Here's a practical exercise. Before intimacy, remind yourself of one positive thing about your body or connection. Take 2 slow breaths. Visualize confidence flowing from your chest and focus outward instead of inward. Over time, this trains your nervous system to associate sexual activity with safety, pleasure, and control rather than pressure and comparison. As men adopt these habits, anxiety fades and confidence becomes the new norm. Performance improves not because of inches, because the body responds to calm, engaged, and present leadership. Once you internalize this, you're ready to carry these lessons into every encounter, transforming intimacy for the rest of your life, and that sets the stage perfectly for the final message. Your best years aren't behind you, they're just beginning. I close by reminding you that your worth, desirability, and masculinity are not defined by a number. Science shows that connection, confidence, and health matter far more, especially for men over 50 and 60. Aging doesn't mean decline, it means understanding your body better and using that knowledge wisely. I reinforce that most fears around size are learned, not biological, and they can be unlearned. I invite you to reflect on what truly improves intimacy in your life and to join the conversation in the comments. Share where you're watching from. Stay connected with this community, and remember, your best years aren't behind you, they're informed.